Jumpfactor client success and insights interview with a special guest that we have today, Curtis Priest from Pixelcarve. He's the CEO of Pixelcarve, which is a premium design agency for website design and development based in the Toronto area. And we're excited to have Curtis here. He's a longtime friend. And we have an exciting story, I think a story of transformation and what the power of digital marketing impact can be if you sort of lean into it. So welcome, Curtis. Thanks for being with us here today.
Thanks, Amir. My pleasure. Happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, so Curtis, one of the things, I'll just share for the audience or listeners here is, of course, I'd love to hear from you, from yourself directly on the background, but you started with digital marketing and SEO with Jumpfactor back in 2014. So it's been almost 10 years. And I know you haven't, you guys have done some tremendous work in the industry, have won many, many accolades and awards for the quality of work for some big brands in both the B2B and B2C space. But perhaps you can share a little bit about the firm and yourself and sort of, the transition prior to 2014 and what kind of moved you in that direction.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity. We've really enjoyed working with you guys over the past decade, but we are 25 years old, our agency. So we had about 15 years of operations prior to beginning our SEO and digital marketing journey. Prior to that, we were mostly an interactive or flash type of agency. So we were really well known for the kind of flash work that we did. We work with a lot of the big agencies in the city and even across North America. We had a lot of direct client work, building big experiential interactive flash sites. We were pretty much the preeminent flash dev agency in Toronto for sure. I'd say even Canada and in many cases, even North America. So we had a lot of awards that we were winning and we were well known for our work. And because we had these great agency relationships, we really never had to focus on marketing or sales. We just took the work that came to us and based on our reputation and our capabilities. And it was plentiful. I mean, there was no reason to go hunting for work. So we did, we probably got a little bit complacent because as anyone in the industry knows, April 2010, a gentleman named Steve Jobs, a little known tech startup guy, as you may all know, he wrote a letter on his website, apple.com, basically announcing that Flash was going to be dying. It was too competitive for his app store. We were able to do stuff inside of browsers using Flash that he would rather be able to charge 30% to his customers or to his users on his phones to control it through the app store. So that was kind of the beginning of the end of that free ride, so to speak, that we'd had for the previous 15 years. And I mean, it wasn't an overnight thing where suddenly it was turned off. We had, I'd say, another 2, 3, maybe even 4 years of runway left where we were still producing ads. Flash was still the most dominant technology in web for sure, and in other devices too. I mean, ironically, we were creating apps and things using Flash technology and then just wrapping them in an app container. So we did have some time, but we saw the revenues sort of radically drop. And the big difference for us is that a lot of our in-market work, so some of the big websites that we designed, some of the big experiences that we had done that had won a lot of awards, and they were very public facing, which is how a lot of people had heard about us and were coming to us. They started coming offline, and so just the scale and size of our referral and our lead network and of the people who really knew about us, it just started dropping. So between 2010 and 2014, it was basically a steep drop off. So we knew we had to do something. The technology promises that Mr. Jobs had made about HTML5 being able to replace Flash, which is what he had said, it wasn't, especially in the beginning, that just wasn't realistic. HTML5 could not do what we could do in Flash. So we were sort of stuck in this quagmire. But I'd say about 3-4 years in, suddenly we were able to start delivering those experiences again that we had been known for in a different technology, and obviously doing things a little bit different, being less dominant on one particular technology platform. That was a good business lesson for me. But we had no leads at that point. Like our leads had basically dried up. We had to figure out, are we going to do outbound sales? Are we going to do paid marketing? Like, what are we going to do? Radio ads? And we've talked about for a while. What are we going to do to restore the lead funnel back? Because now we can produce the same kind of work we need to that the market wants, but no one knows that we can do it. And that's when you and I connected through the Entrepreneurs Organization. And we, to be honest, up until that point, I'd kind of seen SEO as a bit of a snake oil salesman kind of thing. We all get the emails
Yeah,
every day in our spam folder. But thank God for you. You convinced me, like, no, I think we can work with you and make this work, because we're a premium design agency. I'd also had sort of a bad taste in my mouth from the idea of SEO looking websites, they all seem to be just sort of cluttered with text and, more geared at Google as opposed to geared at a human being. But again, you reassured me that, you could blend your technical SEO expertise with our design team and come up with something that would make sense. So yeah, I think it was January 2014 where we pulled our old Flash site offline and we put up our first version of an SEO site, which was kind of like a hybrid of a nice looking site, but with a lot of SEO stuff behind it. And then your team, went to work and did all the stuff, backlinks and citation building and, Google My Business. And I don't even think it was called that back then, but
Yeah.
yeah, over the course of, I'd say 6 to 8 months, we started getting, leads started coming in. Obviously it does take a little bit. I like to equate SEO with going to the gym. You don't just see results right away, but the more you work at it and the more you build up, and eventually the results start coming in, and then they build on top of themselves. And in the beginning, to be honest, it was not a ton of leads, and some of the leads that came in were a little below what we might typically take on in terms of work. But by about 6 months, they were getting pretty good. And then by about 8 months, and I'll never forget this, our first big RFP came in that was purely organic. They just some marketing intern at a massive technology financial institution Googled, website design Toronto or whatever it was that they Googled. We came up and they sent us an RFP and we pitched on it and we won it. And that was a 6-figure job. So like right off the bat, that paid for the entire year's worth of SEO. And then it just snowballed from there to the point where it was, week after week, we were getting 1 or 2 good quality leads. And then by about, I'd say 12 to 16 months, we were getting probably about a lead a day. Not all of them, at super great quality, but probably half of them were. And now, 10 years later, we're getting several good quality leads a day, I would say.
Wonderful. Yeah. And that's a great background. Thanks for sharing the context. I think important things for, the takeaways for some of the people listening are that, regardless of what you offer, there's demand for people searching for it online. And of course, your brand had already existed. You had a strong track record of results of all the amazing work that you had done. So once the traffic came to the site, your business and the brand was able to do a great job of converting that traffic. And so that's fantastic to see. And I know, so you mentioned early on you had a 6-figure deal came in, and it looks like now, based on some of the data we're seeing, fast forward 10 years, we've gone from 0 rankings and visibility and 0 leads to 30 plus quality leads per month. And it looks like about 250 keywords ranking on the first page. Yep. And so maybe you can share a little bit about, how did the transformation, obviously early on you had some keywords ranking, but then it became more and more and higher quality keywords. What was the change in the nature of the inquiries and the deals that were starting to come in for you?
Yeah, and I think this is a key part that anyone that's sort of engaging in SEO or this kind of digital marketing work should look at, because at the beginning of the process, especially, for us, because we hadn't done it before, we didn't really know. We had some ideas, but we didn't know exactly what the best keywords were going to be in terms of delivering a quality lead. So it was a bit of an experimentation process in the beginning, and even in the very, very beginning, you guys were running paid ads for us using certain words to try and figure out, okay, what are the ones that resonate the best, so that we don't invest a bunch of time writing a whole bunch of content around a bunch of keywords that aren't going to have good high quality value. But there's still some experimentation that's going to come with that. It's just the nature of the beast. So in the beginning, what we found was, just getting we went for sort of high volume keywords or sort of mid volume keywords that seemed like they might be good. And if we could score some that were high volume, great. But what we found was agency related keywords, or, words that included, premium or high end or luxury or best or award winning or things like that. They started delivering, better quality. And so over the sort of course of the engagement, obviously now it's been 10 years and we still play with it, because honestly, sometimes that will change from year to year as the market changes or as people's perspective of things change, which never ceases to amaze me, actually, how constantly evolving this whole thing is. Yeah. But in the beginning, it was definitely lower quality leads, because we were probably chasing too generic keywords, like, website designers or things like that. Whereas, someone along the lines of like best website agency in Toronto, that person's more likely to be a very high quality potential client for us, because they're looking for a company or an agency. So right off the bat, they're not looking for a freelancer, so that's higher value. B, they're looking for something that's more specific. They want an award-winning or a best-in-class or a premium or something along those lines. And then it's about marrying those two because, like, for example, I think premium website design, I think there's only like 10 search queries a month on that particular word. So yeah, those 10 people might be really great clients, but is that really enough to be substantive? So, you want to go for something that's similar to that, but maybe has a few hundred or, a couple thousand search queries a month. Those are where we find the sweet spots are, that really allow us to have the volume of leads that come in. And then we, to be quite frank, we're now kind of picky and choosy. We basically just decide which projects we want to take on and which ones we don't, because the volume of leads are so plentiful. And I'm sure many business owners that are watching this right now can also attest to the fact that the labor market is a bit tough. So we now have a bigger problem now delivering, finding the resources and labor to actually deliver the projects than we do having the leads. The leads are no longer an issue for us and haven't been an issue for the past decade.
Well, that's fantastic, and I think you hit on something key. Is once the engine gets running, and you start to get a consistent flow of leads, that's one of the opportunities you have is to be able to start being picky. I just spoke to another marketing executive yesterday about the same kind of scenario where they're getting enough leads now where they're selecting the ones they want to tackle, and they're referring out some of the less ideal fits.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly what we've done. We've partnered with a few different agencies at different price points, at different skill sets. Like we don't do e-commerce, for example.
right.
It's just not in our bench strength, and honestly, they become too complicated for the kind of work that we enjoy doing. And then we also have a minimum pricing threshold. So anything that comes in that say not in our specialty or say doesn't have a budget that would meet our threshold, we now have partners in our network, and then we essentially sell or refer the lead off to that depending on the situation.
Great, yeah. So one of the things that people are always curious about as well. Okay, so you've been doing this for a while. You're seeing a lot of leads, and obviously today what we can see, and actually very early on, we were starting to dominate the page one for all sorts of keywords related to web design, custom web design, web development, agency services in Toronto. And so in the maps pack as well as organic, there's that visibility, and that's obviously what results in the traffic coming in. But what sort of impact has this had from a revenue perspective? Given that it's been several years, I'd estimate it to be pretty substantial. But maybe you can share sort of for the audience in terms of dollars or revenue, what sort of impact this has had for you.
Sure. I mean, the impact has been, staggering. There's a reason that I refer you to every single person that comes across my table asking, how do you generate so many leads?
Yeah.
Easily 8 figures for us, at least over the last decade, if not, well into that number. We also, the other sort of benefit, and you alluded to this earlier, was that oftentimes things compound on themselves. So for example, one of the things that we introduced early on, I'd say probably a year after we started doing the SEO, because the leads were so plentiful, and so we were project based. So we would take a project on, we do the project, and we move on to the next thing. The vast majority of our revenue over the past 10 years, I would say, is connected to SEO in some way. So either it's directly connected in that somebody literally Googled something, and we came up, and then they contacted us and we closed that as business, or because of the compounding effect of having all that work, having some of it be organic, then also having sort of pre-existing, like now 25 years worth of work, and the reputation that goes along with it. That compounds on itself. We've also recently added, not recently, about I'd say a year after we started working with you, we added a recurring revenue model to it. So we now have more support services for our what were previously project-based clients. And so that compounds on itself as well. So, just in terms of raw numbers, well, easily 8 figures over the past decade for sure, and probably well into that number. I can either directly or indirectly attribute to the SEO efforts that you guys have done.
Awesome. Well, that's tremendous to hear, and so happy for the success. And again, we appreciate all the referrals, as you've mentioned that you've sent many over the years. And that's one of the things we take pride into is in our long-term partnerships and ability to just drive results. And so that's fantastic to sort of get a sense of the ROI. One of the things that's key, and I'm sure you have some perspective on, is the team. We have what we feel is a very strong, sort of robust team, multidisciplinary team in different areas. You typically interface with the project and account manager, and then they are, quarterbacking maybe 8 to 13 different specialists, from SEO to paid media, design, content, automation, social, depending on the elements that we're executing for you. But how would you describe, or what are some of your thoughts on the team's project management and responsiveness and overall knowledge level in terms of expertise?
Yeah, I mean, clearly you spent the time to craft a team of experts. As you said, I typically just interface with the client-facing ones, although every now and then, because we are a technical agency, we do roll up our sleeves a little bit and work right with your tech side, with your dev guys. But in terms of the account management, it's world class, second to none. I love working with your team. We have a call once every 2 weeks, and I frequently, we'll just fire them off emails throughout the week or whatever, and they always get right back to me. You have this cool ticketing system that gets put into a ticket, and then I, often get a personal phone call back, or an email back if it's a question that I have, or something. I've seen something change in Google or whatever, and I'm like, hey, is this potentially an opportunity? And then we have a discussion at least every couple of weeks, and we go over all of the things you guys have been working on, all the things that are happening in the industry, all the opportunities, because obviously, as we said earlier, there's sort of a constantly changing environment within Google, and now Bing even as well, especially with the introduction of AI. So there's always new things for us to be doing. So they'll make recommendations. We'll talk about ideas, review all the blog articles and the things that are being written, like the review responses, because we get a bunch of reviews. So your team generates the review responses so that they're on keyword, and they work well with GMB. Our GMB is just absolutely crushing it. We are completely dominant, especially in GMB for maps, for any keyword that we would ever be interested in ranking for. So that usually leads our bi-weekly meetings, just because it's so important. Because we are right in Toronto, and Toronto is the hub of the economy and of business in Canada.
Yeah.
So that's particularly important for us. So and your team recognizes that and are very focused on helping us keep that level of success.
Well, that's great to hear, and I think you touched on something that we believe in a good cadence, so we try to make sure there's biweekly meetings where constant updates are happening, we're informing on the progress and so on. But that's great. So sort of kind of to wrap things up, I know you've shared again that you have referred countless companies to us over the years, and of course, we've been able to help a large portion of them to drive similar success. But if there's a company that's say, looking for a partner, or looking at struggling with online lead generation, and they're looking for a partner, what are some recommendations that you might share in terms of helping them find the right kind of partner, and some guidance in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I was initially skeptical of SEO. You know that as well as anybody else. My partner, who's our creative director, was even more skeptical because he's more on the artistic side of things. But when you look at it through sort of more of a practical lens, one of our bigger concerns in the beginning, beyond just the look and feel of what the website might be being sort of quote unquote SEO'd, which was something that I had completely wrong in my mind anyways, was that, is anyone really going to be looking for what we do on Google? Like, does that make sense? In our business, we sell, high-end, expensive project-based digital work. Is anyone going to sit down at their computer and Google that, or are they going to go ask a friend who they trust? One of the things you helped me do early on is show me how many people actually were going to be sitting down to do that. So when you went through the audit process, it's not just an audit of our website and where our results are now. No, you were looking at the market. You're looking at the industry. So I would encourage anyone that's interested in pursuing this or looking at this, is to actually have a conversation with you and to look at the kind of reports that you're able to pull up using the tools that you guys have, to have some level of confidence, a lot of confidence actually, that there's actually opportunity. And I would say in the vast majority of times, there is going to be opportunity. But maybe you're the 1 in a million company that there's not. And what I found with you specifically is that you're going to be honest about it. You're going to explain exactly what the opportunities are, what they're not. Set realistic expectations and understand that this is a process that's going to take some time. And that if you commit to it, just like commit to going to the gym or commit to a new eating program, whatever, the results will come. And then they will compound on themselves over a period of time. But if you don't get started, you're never going to get there. So
Yeah.
it's that first step, taking that first step, which is painless, because it's basically just looking at the information, understanding how much this makes sense for you, and then taking the next step, which is being open to the iterative process that it's going to be, understanding it's going to take some time to get there, but that when you get there, you're going to be very glad you did, and you're never going to look back.
Awesome. I think that's some great advice, and appreciate sort of the insight there for some of the viewers. I think the key is getting an understanding of your market. So if you are in the market looking for something to help you with your lead generation, feel free to reach out. We're happy to put together a strategy session. And one of the things we'll do, as Curtis mentioned, is be very transparent and share with you not only what the market demand is, but also look at your competitors and see what they are positioned in, how much traffic they're getting, and give you a real sense of what the table stakes would be to compete with that. That has to also align in terms of your expectations and budget. But other than that, feel free to reach out. Curtis, always a pleasure. Thanks for connecting today. It's been great to get some of your insights and your experience with Jumpfactor. Thanks very much, and look forward to connecting in person soon.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you again. And as always, appreciate the results that you guys are getting for us.
Awesome. Cheers.